position, and that's not going to block anyone, and you still have the building directly behind you. You can angle the camera so right to the front of that building. Right? Well, so I asked you to do it, so we don't have any problem. We're here to protect your right to do what you're doing, not to hinder it. Okay? But other people have a right to come in and out of this building.
We're not stopping anybody. We're not blocking anybody's right.
Sarge, is that true that the City Hall is closed after 5?
There's a hearing.
All right. My name is Phoebe Axel, and we are here to hold a press conference in support of Professor Henry Louis Gates, Jr. I'm going to introduce my co-chair, who is Bishop Texera from the Diocese of St. Francis of Assisi. He's also on the Racial Profiling Task Force of Massachusetts. So I'd like to introduce Bishop Texera to begin our press conference today.
Thank you, welcome. Again, we are here today to support Professor Gates and also to let know the Cambridge Police Department their behavior. As you see, a few minutes ago, we had a conversation with a sergeant who's here in front of us. That leads us to understand that what happened last night was true. Whenever you speak your mind, you tell them that black men in America is being profiled, it just speaks volume. A few minutes ago in Boston, they just caught a police officer who was sending outraged comments, racial words against Professor Gates. So, and if you read the Boston Globe comments, the Herald, you understand that the law enforcement in this country, around the nation, in this state, in Cambridge, are really exhibit behaviors that are not acceptable. Gates was in his house, he was minding his business, and he's trying to get some rest. And if you know who he is, and if you have a good police department with a community understanding, you should know your neighbors, you should know your people. So we are here to demand apology from the Cambridge Police Department and also for Sergeant to not to do again what he did. It's wrong, it's not acceptable. If we're going to build a community, we ought to talk and know your neighbors and know your people. Thank you for coming, and let's go start with this.
Okay, thank you, Bishop Texera. My name is Phoebe Axel, and I'm a member of the Women's Fight Back Network. I also work at Harvard University. I'm with the Harvard Union of Clerical and Technical Workers. I lived in Cambridge for 17 years and raised 2 of my children here.
Yes.
We are here today to show 100% support for Professor Henry Louis Gates, Jr. Professor Gates was right. The Cambridge police were wrong.
Yes.
We stand behind Professor Gates in demanding a public apology from the Cambridge Police Department now. Professor Gates, we hope you hear this press conference because we want you to know who we are on the steps of City Hall today. We are multinational residents of Cambridge, Somerville, Boston, and surrounding communities. We are trade unionists. We are church leaders. We are mothers, fathers, teachers. We are community activists and youth activists. We are Harvard University students, workers, and faculty. We join with the hundreds of thousands of people across the country in applauding your courage in standing up to the Cambridge police, in standing up to racism and racial profiling. Is it a crime to get angry at our own oppression? No, it is racial profiling that is the crime. And as women, we know when we get angry at sexism, at our oppression, we are routinely told that we are getting hysterical, to calm down. Professor Gates was arrested because he stood up against racism.
The dispatcher, after reporting that he was in the home of a Henry Louis Gates, the sergeant asked the dispatcher to send more police cars. It is clear and obvious that the police went to Professor Gates' house and that he was there safe in his own house, and yet he was arrested. What was the most outrageous thing, and as a union leader in Massachusetts, I have to speak to the so-called Union of Patrol Officers and others in the police department in Cambridge and around the country. The most outrageous thing was demanding that President Obama and Governor Patrick apologize for saying what was clear and obvious, that racial profiling is an epidemic in this country and that the Cambridge police were wrong in what they did. How dare the Cambridge police tell the President of the United States that this is a local affair and that he should keep his nose out of it because he doesn't know the facts. This reminds me of 1960s when Governor George Wallace told the President of the United States that he had no right to comment on what was going on in Alabama. This reminds me about what was going on all throughout Jim Crow when the South pleaded states' rights and said, stay out of my territory, you don't know the facts. The facts in Cambridge, the facts in Boston are clear to everybody. I live in Boston. I have every right to comment on what happened in Cambridge a couple of weeks ago. It's clear and obvious living in Boston. What happened in Cambridge was an act of false arrest. False arrest based on an officer who saw a black man who gave him an attitude. That is outrageous. Racial profiling and false arrest is a crime. At the review board meeting here in Cambridge tonight, the Cambridge Police Review and Advisory Board should absolutely bring up a complaint brought by the citizens here that could reach these steps tonight against the Cambridge Police Department and Sergeant Crowley in particular for false arrest and racial profiling. That is a crime. That needs to be prosecuted. The Cambridge Police Department, the Cambridge Fraternal Order of Police, they need to apologize not only to Professor Gates, but to the President of the United States, President Obama, to the Governor of the state of Massachusetts, and all working people around the country who are being racially profiled for subprime mortgages, who are being racially profiled for stops and arrests, who are being racially profiled on a daily basis. That's the end of my comments, but I wanted to particularly direct it to the so-called union of police officers in Boston. Get your heads on straight. This is not 1960s Alabama. The President has every right to comment on it, and so do we.
Thank you.